I can't believe this is happening. Lily Harper muttered under her breath as she gripped the strap of her worn purse, the rain soaking through the cheap polyester of her coat and chilling her to the bone. The small cafe on Fifth Avenue was bustling with the Saturday crowd, the clatter of coffee cups and murmurs of conversation filling the air, warm lights spilling out from the windows, reflecting off the wet pavement and glistening puddles. Lily scanned the tables nervously, counting silently under her breath, hoping she hadn't made a mistake like she had the last time, her heart thumping in her chest, fingers twisting the edge of the $5 bill she had managed to scrounge together for this blind date. She had promised herself she would not let embarrassment stop her this time, yet the anxiety in her chest felt like a tight knot that refused to loosen. Across the room, a man in a tailored navy jacket, his hair perfectly combed and eyes scanning his phone, looked entirely out of place to her, a stranger who seemed both sophisticated and untouchable. She took a deep breath, forcing a small smile, and approached him, voice trembling slightly as she said, "Hi. You must be Kevin. I'm Lily. Nice to meet you." Her hands fidgeting as she tried to hide the sweat forming on her palms. The man looked up, startled, blinking once, his confusion evident, and Lily misinterpreted it as shyness, sliding into the chair across from him, trying to ignore the gaze of a few amused onlookers who seemed to notice her disheveled appearance and the humble $5 note clutched tightly in her hand. "Oh, I know this is awkward," she continued quickly, voice bright but wavering. "Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny said you might be quiet, but I can talk enough for both of us." The man hesitated, glancing at his phone again, an unread text blinking softly, and something about her earnestness made him pause, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips as he responded, "Right, blind dates are something else." And for a brief moment, Lily's nerves eased, though the embarrassment lingered like a shadow in the corner of her mind. She told him about her shifts at the downtown diner, her dreams of someday opening a small bakery or art studio, and her struggle to pay rent on time. The words tumbling out with a mixture of humor and vulnerability, her eyes occasionally flicking to his face, searching for any sign of judgment, but instead finding an unreadable expression that made her stomach twist in anticipation. Outside, the drizzle continued, tiny droplets catching the golden light as if mocking her attempt to appear composed, and Lily shifted in her seat, trying to make herself smaller, wishing desperately that the world would stop noticing her for just a few moments, when a sudden buzz from her phone reminded her of Jenny's text. "Where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Her face flushed crimson as the realization hit, like a jolt of electricity. She wasn't at the right table, and the man she had been speaking to with tentative warmth was not Kevin at all. Panic surged, and without thinking, she rose abruptly, knocking her chair slightly against the polished floor, murmuring apologies she barely heard herself say, and bolted toward the exit, her $5 bill still clutched in her hand as the man watched silently, a strange mixture of curiosity and regret flickering in his eyes. Nathan Carter remained seated for a moment, his gaze following her retreating figure, the faintest hint of a smile lingering as he wondered if he might ever see her again, unaware that this brief encounter, charged with discomfort, humility, and unintentional charm, would set the stage for a chain of events that could change both of their lives forever. The chill of the evening clung to Lily as she trudged through the damp streets, the echo of her heels on the wet pavement barely audible over the distant hum of traffic and the occasional splash from a passing taxi. Her mind replayed the awkward conversation at the cafe, the way she had laughed nervously, trying to cover her embarrassment, and the burning flush that had crept up her neck when she realized she had been sitting at the wrong table. Every step toward her tiny apartment felt heavy, as if the city itself weighed down on her, each puddle reflecting the dim glow of the street lamps above. Inside her modest kitchen, she set down her bag and fumbled with the lock on the door, the scent of lingering rain mixing with the faint aroma of instant coffee she had tried to make for dinner. She sank into a chair, $5 bill still clutched in her palm, feeling the sting of humiliation and the bitter taste of inadequacy, her thoughts drifting to the mountain of bills and overdue rent notices stacked neatly on the counter. The apartment, cramped and sparsely furnished, offered little comfort, and Lily hugged her knees to her chest, staring out the window at the slick streets below, wondering how anyone could navigate a world that seemed to demand so much and offer so little in return. In the distance, the muffled sound of laughter from a nearby diner cut through the night air, and she could not help but think how alien that world seemed, full of polished smiles and effortless confidence, a place where people like her were invisible, overlooked, and easily dismissed. She thought about the tasks she would face the next day at the diner, scrubbing counters and refilling coffee pots, serving customers who often did not notice her presence. And yet, somehow, it was all she had to cling to, a tenuous thread of stability in a life that felt increasingly precarious. Meanwhile, across town, Nathan Carter sat in the quiet of his sleek apartment, the city skyline sprawling below him through the floor-to-ceiling windows, his thoughts replaying the brief encounter at the cafe. The memory of Lily, her earnest smile, and the way she had carried herself despite the obvious discomfort, lingered in his mind, provoking a curiosity he could not easily dismiss. He leaned back in his chair, the leather cool against his palms, and considered the possibilities of what it meant to meet someone so genuine, unpolished by wealth or privilege, yet carrying a quiet dignity that struck him profoundly. Nathan wondered if he could, without revealing too much of his own world, observe further, understand her resilience, and perhaps find a way to connect without imposing, a delicate balance of distance and attention that he had rarely encountered. As the night deepened, Lily wrapped herself in the thin blanket that served as both comfort and shield against the creeping cold, and Nathan pondered the subtle power of chance encounters, the invisible threads that could pull lives together in unexpected ways. In their separate worlds, both felt a tug toward the other, a mix of intrigue and hesitation, the seed of something unspoken beginning to take root as the city around them moved on, indifferent to the quiet dramas unfolding in its corners. Morning arrived with a pale light filtering through the thin curtains of Lily Harper's tiny apartment, the remnants of the previous night's rain still glistening on the streets outside. Lily rose quietly, careful not to wake her roommate, and made her way to the small kitchenette, the kettle whistling softly as she brewed a cup of instant coffee. The aroma was comforting, a small anchor in the turbulent sea of her life, yet her mind was preoccupied with the lingering memory of the man from the cafe. She wondered who he really was, what his world looked like, and why a stranger had left such a distinct impression on her in so little time. The day at the diner stretched ahead, a series of familiar tasks, polishing counters, refilling coffee, carrying trays. But today, each action felt heavier, colored by a quiet anticipation and the subtle question of whether she might see him again. She moved through her routine mechanically, yet each interaction with customers reminded her of the stark differences between her life and the seemingly effortless confidence of those who passed through the doors, oblivious to the challenges that weighed on her every day. Across town, Nathan Carter reviewed his morning schedule from the top-floor office of his sleek downtown apartment, the city sprawling below like a living organism, vibrant yet distant. The encounter at the cafe replayed in his mind, every nervous laugh, every quick apology, and the way her eyes had flicked to the $5 bill in her hand without shame or pretense. He adjusted his cufflinks, his mind circling the idea of learning more about her, not out of pity but out of genuine curiosity and admiration for her resilience and integrity. Later, Lily stepped out into the crisp air, the city streets still damp, and walked toward the diner, her footsteps echoing softly against the pavement, the $5 bill folded in her pocket as both reminder and talisman. She noticed the small details along the way, the way the morning light caught on puddles, the distant chatter of early commuters, the aroma of freshly baked bread drifting from a nearby bakery. And for a moment, she allowed herself a quiet appreciation of the world around her, a fleeting sense of calm before the day fully asserted itself. Nathan, meanwhile, had arranged to pass by the diner during his brief mid-morning break, a casual excuse to observe without intruding. Curious to see the way she carried herself, how she interacted with her surroundings, and whether the quiet strength he had glimpsed the night before was consistent. He watched as Lily moved from table to table, the subtle grace in her motions, the gentle smiles she offered to familiar customers, and the careful attention she gave to each task, all of it signaling a character that was unyielding despite circumstance. Nathan made a mental note of the small kindnesses she performed, the unnoticed gestures, the way she went beyond what was required, and felt a quiet admiration building within him, a desire to find a way to acknowledge her efforts without disrupting the delicate balance of her day. For Lily, the awareness that someone was observing her, even from a distance, stirred a mix of curiosity and unease, a faint intuition that the stranger was more than he appeared, yet she had no clear sense of who he truly was or what his intentions might be. As the morning wore on, the routines of the diner continued, each plate set, each cup poured, and each customer served, weaving a tapestry of small, meaningful actions, all under the watchful eyes of a man quietly noting the strength, resilience, and quiet dignity of a woman who, despite every obstacle, moved through her world with grace and unwavering integrity. By mid-afternoon, the diner was humming with the soft rhythm of afternoon patrons, the clatter of dishes and low murmur of conversations filling the space with a familiar, comforting sound. Lily Harper moved with quiet efficiency, her hands steady as she balanced trays of coffee and plates of sandwiches, the $5 bill she had carried still tucked safely in her pocket, a small reminder of her modest means and careful budgeting. She wiped down the counters, stole glances at the clock, and tried to keep her mind focused on the work in front of her, yet she could not shake the awareness that someone was observing her from the corner of the room. Nathan Carter lingered near the entrance, dressed in a casual jacket and jeans, appearing as just another customer to the untrained eye, yet every detail of Lily's movements drew his attention. He noted the way she greeted each customer with genuine warmth, the careful way she ensured every order was accurate, and the quiet confidence in her gestures despite the obvious. Fatigue etched on her face. His curiosity grew with each passing minute, not only at her ability to manage her work, but also at the kindness she displayed to those around her, even when it required extra effort and went unnoticed. Lily poured a cup of tea for an elderly man, adding a small dash of honey and offering a reassuring smile, and Nathan could not help but feel a stirring of admiration, recognizing that this was the same resilience and compassion he had glimpsed during their brief encounter at the cafe. Across the room, Lily noticed a man standing near the window, a subtle aura of attentiveness about him, and for a fleeting moment, she wondered if he had been watching her for more than a few minutes. A soft shiver ran down her spine as she returned to her duties, the thought leaving a strange mix of unease and intrigue. She carried a tray to a table of children from a local school on a field trip, bending down to answer a question about the menu, and sharing a gentle laugh that drew smiles from the group. The scene illuminating the small ways her presence could brighten the day of those around her. Nathan observed this interaction, the corners of his mouth lifting in a quiet smile, as he mentally cataloged the moments that revealed her true character, noting how the smallest gestures could reveal the depth of someone's heart. Lily's shift progressed, each task flowing into the next, and though she remained unaware of the precise reasons behind Nathan's watchful gaze, she felt a subtle sense of connection, as if the world were briefly aligning to highlight the moments of care she extended so naturally. As the afternoon light softened and spilled golden across the wooden floors, Nathan decided it was time to step closer, not yet to reveal himself fully, but to introduce an element of conversation, a light touch of presence that might allow Lily to notice him without realizing the significance of his identity. He approached the counter with measured steps, offering a polite smile as he ordered a cup of coffee, the sound of the espresso machine and the murmur of customers forming a soft backdrop, a quiet stage on which the next chapter of their interaction would begin. Lily poured the drink, hands steady though a slight curiosity flickered in her eyes. As she handed the cup across the counter, meeting the gaze of the stranger with an almost imperceptible pause, the subtle exchange carrying with it the weight of unspoken recognition and the faintest hint of anticipation for what might come next. The soft chime of the diner door announced a new arrival, and Lily Harper looked up from refilling sugar dispensers, her eyes meeting the calm, attentive gaze of Nathan Carter as he stepped closer, his presence quiet but undeniable. He carried a small notebook in his hand, a casual prop to avoid drawing attention, yet the careful way he observed the room spoke volumes of his intent, as if cataloging the moments that defined the day around him. Lily moved toward the counter, setting down a cup and glancing at him, the faintest curiosity flickering in her eyes, wondering if this man had lingered so long merely by coincidence. Nathan smiled politely, his tone measured as he said, "It smells wonderful in here. Do you make these yourself?" Lily hesitated, a blush warming her cheeks as she realized he had noticed the care she put into even the smallest details, from the perfectly frosted cupcakes to the neatly aligned sugar packets. "Yes, I do what I can," she replied softly, the modesty in her voice betraying the pride she felt in her work, pride that often went unseen by others. Nathan nodded, leaning slightly against the counter, allowing his attention to be present without imposing, watching her movements with an appreciation that was quiet yet unmistakable. Lily felt a subtle shift, a sense that this stranger did not simply observe, but valued the effort she put into her day, a recognition that was unfamiliar and deeply comforting. As the lunch crowd began to arrive, Lily moved efficiently, refilling drinks, balancing plates, her movements fluid yet careful, each gesture revealing her capability and grace under pressure. Nathan watched as she deftly navigated the small space, assisting customers with patience and a warm smile, never once allowing her own exhaustion to show, and he found himself noting the way she connected with people, not for reward or recognition, but simply out of genuine consideration. For Lily, the awareness that someone paid such quiet attention to her actions stirred a mixture of intrigue and cautious hope, a feeling she had not allowed herself in a long time. Nathan, meanwhile, felt an increasing desire to understand the depth of her character, to observe the strength and kindness that radiated from her so naturally, and he made a subtle decision to introduce a small interaction, one that would allow them to engage without revealing the full measure of who he was. As he reached for his coffee cup, he commented lightly on the latte art, the design imperfect yet charming, and Lily laughed softly, a sound that carried a sense of relief and lightness that had been absent from her day until now. The conversation flowed briefly, measured and gentle, each word carefully chosen, yet full of warmth, a quiet exchange that allowed trust and connection to begin taking root. Nathan left the counter after a few moments, his smile lingering as he returned to his seat, and Lily returned to her tasks, carrying with her a small sense of pride and the strange comfort that someone had truly noticed her, while Nathan, from across the room, silently acknowledged the start of a thread connecting their two very different worlds, a thread woven from observation, kindness, and a budding curiosity that neither could yet fully name. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the streets, Lily Harper carried a tray of pastries to a corner table, her movements precise yet graceful, every detail attended to with care. The diner was quieter now, the lunch rush fading, leaving a gentle hum of conversation and the clinking of cutlery as a soft soundtrack to the unfolding calm. Nathan Carter remained seated at a window booth, pretending to read a magazine, though his attention was entirely on Lily. He noted the way she adjusted a napkin under a cup, the careful consideration she gave to each guest, and the subtle ways she made the space feel warmer and more welcoming. Lily caught a glimpse of him from the corner of her eye and felt an unfamiliar flicker of awareness, the sense that someone had noticed her not just as a worker, but as a person, observing her with quiet interest and respect. When she returned to the counter, Nathan rose and approached with deliberate calm, offering a gentle smile as he placed a notebook on the bar. "I could not help but notice how you manage everything so seamlessly," he said, voice warm yet understated, careful not to startle her. Lily blinked, a blush creeping over her cheeks, and shook her head slightly. "It is just part of the job," she replied softly, not used to someone acknowledging the effort she put in with such thoughtfulness. Nathan leaned slightly forward, his eyes conveying sincerity. "It is more than just a job. There is a kindness and care in what you do that deserves to be seen." The words caused a subtle shift in Lily's posture, a mixture of curiosity and cautious hope taking root. She glanced down at the $5 bill folded neatly in her pocket, a small symbol of her modest means, and then back to the man before her, a feeling of tentative connection forming in the spaces between their exchanged glances. Nathan's attention lingered on her hands, the small gestures of care she demonstrated throughout her tasks, and he recognized a depth of character that could not be taught or imitated. He decided it was time to introduce a slightly more personal interaction without overstepping, offering a small comment about the way she arranged the pastries on the tray, drawing a light laugh from her, the sound delicate and genuine, like a note carried on the soft afternoon light. Lily felt her heart lift just slightly, the unusual attention coupled with her own quiet pride in her work, creating an unexpected warmth. Nathan returned to his booth after a few moments, sipping his coffee and watching as she continued to serve with a balance of diligence and gentle humor. The subtle interaction had created a bridge, a quiet understanding that neither had spoken of but both felt, a thread of recognition and appreciation beginning to weave between them. For Lily, there was a faint sense of reassurance that someone was seeing her in a way she had rarely experienced, and for Nathan, the act of simply being present, observing without interference, became a quiet way to honor the resilience and integrity he so clearly admired. The diner settled into a serene rhythm, each small interaction between Lily and Nathan layered with unspoken acknowledgment, a slow building of connection that hinted at deeper exchanges yet to come. The afternoon stretching onward with the promise of unfolding understanding and the subtle stirring of mutual respect and gentle curiosity. As the diner quieted into the soft lull of mid-afternoon, Lily Harper carried a stack of clean plates to the small storage area, her movements deliberate and careful, the weight of each plate a reminder of the routine that had become both comfort and necessity. Nathan Carter, seated near the window, watched her with a quiet intensity, noting how she handled every detail with precision yet never lost the warmth she extended to the customers. The subtle way she adjusted a napkin, smiled at a struggling patron, or offered gentle reassurance to a child drew his admiration, a quiet recognition that the kindness she exuded was effortless and genuine. Lily paused to straighten a display of pastries, her eyes briefly meeting Nathan's across the room, and she felt a flicker of curiosity and a cautious hope, wondering if he had lingered intentionally or if she was imagining the attention. Nathan approached the counter casually, his footsteps soft against the wooden floor, and spoke in a tone both warm and unobtrusive. "I noticed how carefully you attend to every detail. It is rare to see such dedication." Lily's fingers stilled, a blush rising to her cheeks as she met his gaze, and she murmured, "I just try to do my best. It helps the day feel a little more manageable." Nathan nodded, his expression gentle. "It is more than manageable. It shows a character that is admirable and resilient." The words caused a subtle shift in Lily's posture, a mixture of pride and surprise stirring within her, the recognition of her efforts from someone she did not know leaving a quiet warmth in her chest. As she returned to her duties, balancing trays and refilling beverages, Nathan observed the way she engaged with the patrons, the genuine smile she offered, the patience and care woven into every interaction, and he felt a deepening curiosity and respect for her character. Lily noticed him glance toward the kitchen door briefly, a small sign of interest that was neither intrusive nor imposing, and she felt a subtle tension, a quiet anticipation that this observer might be more than a casual stranger. Nathan, sensing the delicate balance between presence and distance, chose his next words carefully, complimenting a small detail of her work without drawing unnecessary attention, and Lily responded with a small laugh, the sound bright and genuine, lightening the quiet atmosphere of the diner. The interaction, brief and understated, created a delicate thread of connection between them, an unspoken understanding forming in the spaces of glance and gesture. For Lily, there was a gentle reassurance that her work and character were being noticed and valued, and for Nathan, the simple act of acknowledging her efforts became a meaningful gesture of appreciation, establishing a foundation of trust and curiosity that promised the possibility of further encounters and deeper understanding. The afternoon light softened through the windows, bathing the diner in a warm, golden hue, and both Lily and Nathan, in their separate roles yet connected through subtle recognition and mutual respect, moved through the unfolding moments with a quiet awareness that the day had shifted and something new and meaningful was beginning to take root. The late afternoon light filtered through the tall windows of the diner, casting warm stripes across the wooden floor, and Lily Harper moved with practiced ease, carrying plates and refilling drinks while her mind wandered to the earlier exchange with the attentive stranger. She wondered why he had lingered, Why his eyes seemed to notice not only her work, but the effort and care she poured into every task. Nathan Carter, seated in his usual spot near the window, observed her silently, the corners of his mouth lifting in a subtle smile as he watched her interactions with the customers, the ease with which she offered comfort and patience, the natural grace in each gesture, a quiet proof of her character that needed no embellishment. As the diner quieted, he made a deliberate choice to engage more directly, stepping to the counter and resting his forearms lightly against the polished wood. "I have to say," he began in a tone that was warm but carefully measured, "it is remarkable how you manage everything so attentively while keeping such a positive spirit." Lily looked up, caught off guard by the sincerity in his voice, and she hesitated, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. "It is nothing special," she replied softly, trying to dismiss the compliment. Yet there was an unspoken acknowledgment in her eyes, a small recognition that his words carried weight. Nathan nodded, maintaining a gentle gaze. It is rare to see someone handle their responsibilities with such grace and kindness, especially when the day gets long and the tasks keep piling up. Lily felt a subtle shift within her, a mix of curiosity and quiet appreciation, as if she were seeing a glimpse of someone who truly valued her effort without judgment or expectation. Nathan continued, careful not to overstep. "I have noticed the little things, the small gestures that often go unseen. They speak volumes about who you are." Lily's hands stilled for a moment as she absorbed his words, a warmth spreading through her chest at the idea that someone could see her beyond the uniform, beyond the tray of plates and the tally of orders. She returned to her work, pouring coffee and arranging pastries. Yet the weight of Nathan's attention lingered, creating a gentle undercurrent of awareness that made her movements feel lighter, more deliberate, and subtly connected to another presence in the room. Nathan watched her, noting the slight tilt of her head as she smiled at a regular customer, the care in her hands as she balanced the plates, and the quiet integrity that seemed to radiate from every action. He allowed a moment of silence to pass before making a casual remark about the way she had arranged the dessert display, drawing a soft, genuine laugh from her, a sound that filled the space with a delicate energy. The interaction, small and seemingly inconsequential, built a bridge of understanding, a subtle recognition of character that required no declaration or grandeur, only observation, acknowledgment, and the shared human experience of being seen and valued. Lily continued her tasks, her awareness of Nathan's presence creating a gentle tension, a mixture of intrigue and cautious anticipation, while Nathan felt a quiet satisfaction in witnessing her resilience, kindness, and subtle strength. Realizing that their paths had intersected in a way that held promise, the afternoon stretching before them with the quiet possibility of connection, trust, and a bond yet to fully form. Evening settled over the city, the soft glow of streetlights reflecting off the damp sidewalks, and Lily Harper wiped down the last of the tables in the diner, her muscles tired but her spirit quietly buoyed by the day's rhythm. Nathan Carter stood near the entrance, hands casually in his pockets, watching her with a thoughtful expression, the subtle warmth in his eyes betraying an admiration he had yet to voice. As Lily moved toward the counter to stack clean dishes, she caught sight of him lingering, and a fleeting sense of recognition stirred within her, mingled with the lingering curiosity that had grown stronger over the past hours. Nathan stepped closer, careful to appear casual, and spoke, with a gentle tone, "I hope you do not mind me saying this, but the way you handle your work, the care you take with every detail, it is impressive." Lily paused, a soft smile tugging at her lips, a blush warming her cheeks as she replied, "Thank you. I suppose I just try to make the best of what I have and keep things running smoothly." Nathan nodded, his gaze steady. It shows more than effort. It reflects a character that is thoughtful, kind, and resilient. Those qualities are not often acknowledged as they should be. Lily felt a subtle shift, the words settling into her mind, creating a quiet sense of validation she had rarely experienced. The diner's atmosphere, already calm, seemed to still further as they shared this brief exchange, a small island of understanding amid the soft hum of leftover patrons and the distant sounds of the city beyond the windows. Nathan continued, choosing his words with care, "I have watched how you interact with those around you. the way you extend patience and warmth without expectation. It is rare, and it deserves recognition. Lily's hands rested lightly on the counter as she absorbed the meaning behind his voice, a quiet sense of connection beginning to weave between them, delicate and unspoken. She glanced toward the window, then back at him, and said softly, "I did not realize someone would notice." Nathan allowed a faint smile. "Sometimes the smallest gestures are the most significant. I wanted you to know that it is seen and appreciated." A comfortable silence followed, the kind that carried understanding without words, and Lily returned to her tasks, the warmth of his presence lingering, infusing the ordinary movements with a subtle lightness. Nathan lingered a moment longer before turning slightly, keeping his attention on her, silently acknowledging the unfolding trust, the quiet bond forming through observation, conversation, and shared space. Outside, the sky shifted to deeper shades of twilight, the city lights flickering on as if in response to the soft, growing connection within the diner. For Lily, the day's end carried an unexpected lift, a gentle assurance that her efforts and character were recognized by someone who seemed to understand the quiet strength she carried. For Nathan, the awareness of her resilience and kindness created a sense of anticipation, a recognition that their encounter was the beginning of something meaningful, a delicate promise of interaction and understanding yet to fully blossom. The diner's final hum faded as Lily locked the doors for the night, and both remained mindful of the thread connecting them, an unspoken bridge formed from observation, appreciation, and the shared human experience of being seen and valued, the evening settling around them with a gentle, quiet hope for what might come next. The following morning brought a soft golden light that filtered through the thin blinds of the diner, the quiet hum of the city awakening beyond the windows as Lily Harper moved through her morning routine with a mixture of determination and lingering wonder from the previous evening's subtle connection. She adjusted the chairs, wiped down the counters, and arranged the pastries with careful precision, her hands steady yet her thoughts wandering to the attentive stranger who had lingered yesterday, the memory of his quiet admiration echoing in the spaces between her movements. Nathan Carter entered the diner casually, dressed in a crisp shirt and tailored slacks that blended seamlessly with the morning crowd, his presence commanding attention without demanding it. He approached the counter with a gentle smile, setting a leather-bound folder down beside his coffee cup, the simple gesture drawing Lily's eyes to him with a mix of curiosity and restrained surprise. "Good morning," he said, his voice warm, carrying a hint of familiarity that immediately eased the tension Lily did not realize she had been holding. "I hope you are well today." Lily offered a small nod, her fingers brushing against the edge of the counter as she replied softly, "I am, thank you. How are you?" Nathan's gaze remained kind, focused on her, noting the subtle ways she carried herself, the unspoken strength in the way she moved and interacted with her environment. "Better for seeing you here," he said gently, careful to keep his tone professional yet personal, a delicate balance that left Lily uncertain whether to smile or turn back to her tasks. She returned a tentative smile, feeling the strange warmth of recognition, the sense that someone truly saw the effort and character she carried each day. Nathan opened the folder slowly, sliding a neatly typed note toward her, an offer that was both unexpected and carefully considered. "I wanted to provide an opportunity," he explained, voice calm and deliberate. "A way to contribute your talents in a broader capacity. Beyond what you do here, if you are willing to explore it." Lily's brow lifted in quiet surprise, her heart catching as she read the words, realizing the gesture extended far beyond mere observation, a tangible acknowledgment of her skill, care, and resilience. I do not know what to say," she murmured, voice catching slightly as she looked up at him, uncertainty and curiosity blending in her expression. Nathan leaned forward just slightly, his hands resting lightly on the counter. "No need to say anything yet. Consider it carefully. I merely wanted to ensure you had the chance to recognize the value you bring and to allow you to choose whether this path might suit you." The diner felt suspended in that moment, the distant sounds of the city muted as Lily absorbed the gravity and generosity of the offer, the quiet recognition of her abilities, and the rare chance to step beyond the familiar constraints of her daily life. She folded her hands over the folder, tracing the edges with her fingers, and Nathan's eyes softened, observing the mix of pride, apprehension, and hope reflected in her gaze. Each moment was measured, deliberate, a dance of observation, acknowledgment, and careful engagement. As Lily felt a subtle shift within her, the seed of possibility taking root. Nathan allowed her the space to consider, the warmth of his presence and the thoughtful weight of his gesture creating a quiet anticipation, a delicate invitation to a path that could reshape her day, her skills, and perhaps even the contours of her life. The morning light casting a gentle glow over the scene, illuminating the beginning of a choice that held promise and transformation. Over the next few weeks, Lily Harper found herself stepping into a new rhythm. The offer Nathan Carter had extended, slowly transforming her days. She arrived at the small foundation he had arranged, a space filled with warmth, sunlight streaming through tall windows, and the gentle hum of activity as volunteers moved about, preparing meals, organizing supplies, and speaking with a quiet purpose that mirrored the care she brought to her work. Nathan greeted her at the entrance with a soft smile, his tone calm, yet encouraging. "Welcome. Take your time to get acquainted with the space and the people. You will find a lot of opportunities to contribute, but there is no rush." Lily nodded, the blend of nerves and anticipation fluttering in her chest, and she allowed herself to take in the details of the new environment. The organized rows of pantry shelves, the artfully arranged workstations, and the small touches of warmth, handwritten notes, photos of past events, that spoke to a culture of care and community. She began by assisting with meal preparation, chopping vegetables and arranging items with careful attention, her hands moving confidently, each task giving her a quiet sense of accomplishment that was both unfamiliar and invigorating. Nathan observed from a distance, noting the precision and care with which she executed each step, the way she interacted with the volunteers and staff, offering gentle encouragement and small smiles that seemed to lift the energy of those around her. As the day progressed, Lily found herself engaged in more complex tasks, coordinating delivery schedules and organizing events, her confidence growing with each responsibility. She was struck by the subtle ways Nathan provided guidance without dominating, offering suggestions and insights while allowing her to take the initiative, a balance that encouraged her growth and validated her capabilities. Between tasks, they shared moments of quiet conversation, Nathan asking about her experiences and perspectives, listening attentively, and Lily finding herself opening up in ways she had not anticipated, the comfort of being heard and respected fostering a sense of belonging. The afternoon light shifted, painting the room in warm hues, and Lily noticed the subtle satisfaction in Nathan's expression, a reflection of mutual recognition and growing trust. For Nathan, observing Lily embrace the opportunities and challenges of the foundation revealed the depth of her resilience, her compassion, and the authenticity that had captivated him from the moment he first noticed her. They walked together through the center, discussing plans for community outreach and new initiatives, their dialogue flowing naturally, filled with mutual respect and the shared goal of making a positive impact. Lily felt a quiet thrill at the realization that her contributions mattered, that her skills and character were recognized in a space that valued more than just efficiency, and she began to envision the potential for personal growth and meaningful impact. Nathan, sensing the subtle transformation unfolding before him, allowed her space to flourish, aware that the combination of her inherent kindness and newly discovered opportunities was nurturing both confidence and connection. As the sun dipped lower, casting a soft glow across the center, Lily paused to look at the room she had helped organize, the sense of accomplishment and the warm hum of activity filling her with a quiet pride, while Nathan, observing her satisfaction, understood that their collaboration had created not only tangible results for the foundation, but also the foundation for trust, respect, and a slowly growing bond that promised further unfolding of both personal and shared journeys. That evening, as the city lights flickered on outside and cast long, golden reflections across the diner's polished wooden floors, Lily Harper wiped down the last counter with deliberate care, the gentle rhythm of her movements matching the calm pulse of the quiet room. Nathan Carter, standing near the doorway with a subtle, knowing smile, watched her from a respectful distance, the quiet pride in his gaze unmistakable as he observed the way she moved with both efficiency and grace, every action revealing the patience, kindness, and quiet strength that had captivated him from the very beginning. Lily paused for a moment, glancing toward him with a hint of recognition and tentative curiosity, unsure of why the stranger's presence felt so grounding, so significant, and yet feeling a small spark of anticipation at the thought of his company. Nathan stepped forward slightly, careful not to startle her, and spoke with a tone both warm and unintrusive. "Lily, I wanted to thank you for the dedication and heart you bring to everything you do, not just here, but in the foundation, in the community you have helped foster." Her eyes widened slightly, the quiet weight of his acknowledgment settling over her, bringing a warmth that spread through her chest and eased the lingering tension she had carried for months. I do not know what to say," she murmured softly, her hands folded over the edge of the counter. The words caught between humility and the stirrings of something she had not expected to feel. Nathan's gaze softened. "There is no need for words, only to know that your efforts are noticed and valued, and that they matter in ways that reach beyond what you might see." Lily looked down at her hands for a brief moment, the folded $5 bill in her pocket a small, quiet reminder of how far she had come, and then back up at him, her eyes reflecting the flickering diner lights and a mixture of gratitude and tentative trust. The silence between them was rich and full, a comfortable pause that allowed the weight of shared understanding to settle, and Nathan extended a small hand toward the folder he had left earlier in the week, an unspoken invitation for her to embrace the opportunity he had prepared, the chance for growth and recognition that had already begun to shift her perspective and open new doors. Lily took the folder with a careful, almost reverent gesture, feeling the tangible possibility within it, the potential for change that extended beyond her familiar routines. And in that quiet moment, the connection between them deepened, the space around them filled with the subtle energy of mutual respect, recognition, and the first threads of a bond that promised continued support, collaboration, and the unfolding of a life touched by understanding, kindness, and the rare experience of being truly seen. Nathan watched her as she opened the folder, the light in her eyes catching the edges of the papers inside, and a quiet sense of satisfaction settled over him, knowing that their paths had aligned not by chance, but by the deliberate observation, care, and recognition of character that had brought them to this pivotal moment of trust, anticipation, and the soft beginnings of a meaningful journey together. The night had settled softly over the city, the glow from the street lamps spilling into the diner through the tall windows, casting gentle patterns on the polished wooden floors. Lily Harper moved through the space one final time, ensuring everything was in order, the quiet hum of the refrigerators and the distant sounds of late traffic filling the gentle silence around her. Nathan Carter stepped beside her, his presence calm yet attentive, and for the first time, he allowed a subtle smile that carried the weight of unspoken intention. "Lily," he said softly, his voice steady yet warm, "there is something I have been meaning to share with you, something that I have watched quietly and hoped you would come to see through your own remarkable efforts." Lily looked up, her hands resting lightly on the counter, a flicker of curiosity in her gaze, the energy between them charged with quiet anticipation. Nathan took a small step closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I am not just here as someone observing. I am someone who wants to provide the means for you to grow, to recognize the impact of your character and kindness in a world that often overlooks it." He gestured subtly toward the folder she had been carrying, and Lily felt her heart lift, understanding that this was more than an opportunity. It was a deliberate acknowledgment of her abilities, her resilience, and her innate warmth. "Everything I have observed in these past weeks has confirmed what I suspected from the very beginning," Nathan continued, his tone measured, "that you are someone whose heart and talent deserve recognition and trust, and I want to ensure that you know your worth and the difference you make." Lily's fingers gripped the edge of the folder, the weight of his words settling over her, a mixture of humility, surprise, and gratitude mingling in her chest. Nathan reached into his pocket and retrieved a small envelope, sliding it across the counter toward her. "This represents a commitment to support your growth, your aspirations, and to provide the resources to explore your potential without fear of limitation. Lily accepted the envelope with a tentative hand, her eyes lifting to meet his, and in that gaze, a silent understanding passed between them, a bond built on respect, recognition, and the quiet unfolding of trust. The diner, now emptied of all but the two of them, seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with the soft energy of possibility and connection. Nathan offered a small, reassuring nod, his expression open and sincere. I have watched you rise above challenges with grace and integrity, and I hope you will allow this to be the next step in a journey that reflects the strength, compassion, and remarkable person you are. Lily felt a warmth spreading through her, a mixture of pride, hope, and a gentle excitement at the path before her, the envelope in her hands a tangible reminder of how far she had come and the trust he had placed in her. The city outside shimmered in quiet anticipation as they stood together in the soft glow of the diner, the beginnings of a new chapter forming around them, a future shaped by recognition, kindness, and the profound understanding that two lives had intersected in a way that promised growth, connection, and the gentle unfolding of shared trust and respect.